The Young and the Restless. Spoilers. Chelsea stood at the edge of the living room, her heart pounding violently in her chest. She had been holding on to this secret for too long, and the weight of it was beginning to crush her spirit. She knew that tonight was the night she had to tell Billy the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The guilt had been eating away at her, gnawing at every fiber of her being until she could no longer bear the burden. As she looked around the room, everything seemed to blur together. Familiar surroundings now felt suffocating. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, but the air caught in her throat. She felt trapped, like a caged animal with no escape. The walls seemed to close in on her as she heard the sound of Billy's footsteps approaching. Billy entered the room with a gentle smile, his eyes filled with warmth and love, a love that Chelsea had betrayed. Her heart ached as she realized how much she had hurt him, and how much more pain she was about to inflict. The room fell into a tense silence as Billy sensed something was wrong. His smile faded, replaced by a look of concern. "Chelsea, what's going on?" he asked, his voice filled with worry. Chelsea couldn't meet his gaze. She stared at the floor, her hands trembling as she tried to find the words, but the words felt like shards of glass in her throat, sharp and painful. She swallowed hard, her mouth dry, and her voice barely a whisper. "Billy, I need to tell you something," began, voice shaking with emotion. "I haven't been honest with you. I've been lying." Billy's heart skipped a beat and he felt a cold chill run down his spine. He could sense the gravity of the situation, but he wasn't prepared for what was coming next. He remained silent, his eyes locked on Chelsea, waiting for her to continue. Chelsea finally mustered the courage to look up, her eyes meeting Billy's for the first time in what felt like an eternity. The pain and guilt in her eyes were unmistakable. Tears welled up, blurring her vision as she continued. "I've betrayed you, Billy. I did something terrible, something I can't take back," she confessed, her voice cracking under the weight of her words. Billy's expression hardened, a mix of shock and disbelief washing over him. He felt a lump form in his throat. His heart began to race. He tried to keep his composure, but the intensity of the moment was overwhelming. His eyes glistened with unshed tears as he struggled to process what Chelsea was telling him. What did you do, Chelsea?" Billy asked, his voice barely audible, as if he was afraid of the answer. Chelsea's tears began to fall freely now, streaming down her cheeks as she took a shaky breath. She could feel her entire world crumbling around her, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. She felt a deep sense of shame, the kind that made her want to disappear. "I'm so sorry, Billy. I'm so sorry," she sobbed, her voice breaking as she spoke. I cheated on you. I betrayed your trust." Billy felt the words hit him like a ton of bricks. His legs felt weak, and he had to steady himself against the arm of the couch. He had suspected something was wrong, but he had never imagined this. The room spun around him, and for a moment, thought he might pass out. Pain in his chest was unbearable, like a knife being twisted in his heart. Chelsea saw the devastation in Billy's eyes, and it broke her. She hated herself for what she had done, for the hurt she had caused the man she loved. She couldn't stop crying, the guilt and shame consuming her entirely. She felt like she was drowning in her own misery. "I don't deserve you, Billy," Chelsea choked out, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm a terrible person. I hate myself for what I've done. I don't deserve to be with you." Billy took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. His mind was racing, but he knew he had to keep it together. He couldn't let his emotions get the best of him. Not now. He wiped away a tear that had escaped down his cheek, his heart aching with a pain he had never known before. "Chelsea, you need to calm down," Billy said softly, his voice trembling as he tried to maintain his composure. "We'll figure this out, but you need to calm down." Chelsea couldn't calm down. The weight of her actions, the guilt, the shame, it was all too much. She shook her head violently, her body trembling as she sobbed uncontrollably. She couldn't bear to look at Billy, couldn't bear to see the pain in his eyes, the pain she had caused. "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry," she repeated over and over again, her voice growing more frantic with each repetition. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, Chelsea's body went limp. Her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed to the floor in a heap, unconscious. Billy's heart skipped a beat as he watched Chelsea fall. For a brief moment, he thought she might be faking it, dramatic ploy for sympathy. But then he saw the way her body lay still, face pale and lifeless. Panic gripped him as he rushed to her side, his hands shaking as he checked her pulse. "Chelsea, Chelsea, wake up," Billy shouted, his voice filled with fear and urgency. There was no response. Chelsea lay motionless on the floor, breathing shallow and labored. Billy's mind raced as he realized the severity of the situation. This wasn't just a dramatic outburst, something was seriously wrong. Without wasting another second, Billy scooped Chelsea up into his arms and rushed out the door, his heart pounding with fear. He didn't know what was happening, but he knew he had to get her to a hospital and fast. Drive felt like an eternity, each passing second filled with anxiety.